Thank goodness for Beth
We
Ann.
always forget.
Thank you, Beth Ann. Yeah, so so as I was mentioning, I'm with Axion Opportunity Fund, or AOF, as I'll kind of refer to it. And AOF is a national nonprofit organization that provides affordable loan capital, as well as wraparound business resources to small business owners like yourselves across the country, with a specific focus on women and entrepreneurs of color. We also provide trusted business advice and educational programs. Specifically, like the webinar that you're going to see today, we also have tons of resources and articles, and you'll see a lot of those rich resources being shared in the chat as we go throughout the day. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in the chat just to give you an idea of where you can stop just to find all of those resources. But there's that. All right, so before I introduce Beth Ann formally and we jump into the topic, just wanted to give everyone a couple of housekeeping items. So you should be able to view the presentation through the Zoom webinar tool window on your desktop if you join by computer, and you'll see the chat function in the black bar at the bottom. And so I see a lot of us using it already, which is great. But use that throughout, drop your questions. This is going to be really interactive. So as we go through certain topics, if something resonates with you or you want to, dig a little deeper, let's chat about that. As Beth Ann reminded me, we are recording today's webinar. And that is because there's going to be so much great information here that we want this to be a resource for you to go back to. So you'll be able to refer back to this and see different parts or zone in on different pieces. You'll get a follow-up email directly to your inbox, and that will allow you to kind of get all the resources that we're going to talk about today in there. And just finally, before we move forward, AOF is proud to support entrepreneurs through access to capital and educational resources like this webinar. And we're very, very grateful to our partners at Global Atlantic Financial Group for sharing our commitment to small business. So today's discussion is going to give you really important insights to how do you start your business, or start if you're brand new and you want to start, or if you have a business but you're looking to start something else, what are the best steps to take? And to take us through this conversation and really guide us, I'm really thrilled to introduce one of my favorite panelists to work with. Don't tell anybody. This is Beth Ann DeHaan. She is one of AOF's business advisors. She has an MBA from Northeastern University, and she's used her own experience as a successful business owner to counsel hundreds of small businesses through everything from starting a business, which is perfect for today, and sustaining your business through difficult times. I'm so excited to be working with you again, Beth Ann. Hi.
Hello. Excited to be working with you too, Brittany.
All right. Okay. So let's get into the nitty gritty of what we're going to be talking about today. So our goals for today are really, once you leave, is that you have a good understanding of the best practices to getting your business off the ground. So you kind of understand where you need to start. And then you learn those tips that will really sustain you in the first few years of your business so that you can be successful. So to help us dig into those specific goals, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Beth Ann.
Thank you so much, Brittany, and welcome to everyone. Excited to have you here. It's always exciting when you're thinking about starting your own business, what you need to do, and we want to make sure you get off on the right foot. I will add just a bit to my bio in that I am an entrepreneur myself. I have started 2 small businesses. I live here in the Boston area in Massachusetts, and I ran a cafe and catering business for a number of years, and I currently own a wine production company. So a lot of experience with food and beverage, but just have been through a lot of this, a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. I've been through them myself. So So we're off and running. So what are the 7 steps, as we like to say, to start a business? So first, you want to start with a good idea. You want to make sure you conduct market research on your idea. You want to write a business plan, make your business official. So this includes the business structure, and legal structure, et cetera. You want to organize your finances. You want to protect your business. And for some reason, Brittany, the last one is getting cut off.
Oh, promote your business.
Promote your business. Yes, I should just know that, but drawing a blank there for a second. So yes, promote your business, very, very important. And we will launch into going into a little bit more detail about all of these steps. So the first thing you want to do is, start with a great idea that matches your own life's goals. So you want to ask yourself, why do I want to start a business? What problem do I solve in starting this business? And who is my target customer?
Awesome. Beth Ann, I love the idea of, like starting with a great idea or something that, why do you want to start it? A business. You mentioned that you have a business yourself. How did you kind of answer these questions?
Yeah, so it's a great question. With both of my businesses, they're both in the sort of food and beverage industry, and food and cooking and wine has always been a passion in my family. Starting, with my mother, and my brother is a chef. I actually owned the business with my first business with my brother. So I just love everything about food. And so I was truly passionate. So even when the business got really hard and maybe frustrating at times, I was still doing something that I was passionate about. So you really want to pick something that you love, and it won't seem like work.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And for those of you who are joining us and you're starting your journey, we'd love to hear kind of what areas that you're passionate in or what areas you'd like to go into.
So like I said, you want to make sure that your business idea aligns with your passions and skills. And so, this might involve a hobby, a family interest. Like I said, in my case, cooking and food and wine was always something that was really important in my family. So it was easy to sort of take that idea and run, a business with it. Or it might have to do with a current or former job that you have. So maybe you work as a nurse or a doctor, and you want to stay involved in the healthcare business. So you might think about starting a healthcare company. So, and that would also align with the skills that you would have. Assess your abilities. So what are you good at? Understand, if you really have skills within each of your interests to help sort of narrow down the list of potential businesses. And know your weaknesses. So not everyone is going to be an expert at everything when you start a business. And a perfect example of this is people who want to start a restaurant or a food business. You might be the best chef in the world. And I can say from experience, my brother was the chef of our business. Amazing chef. He could cook anything. But when it came to having the business skills, that wasn't his forte. And so that's why we, getting together and forming the business together, we were able to complement each other's skills. So don't be afraid to learn from others or partner with people with complementary skills to make sure that you cover everything that it takes to operate a business.
Love that.
So the next thing you want to do is to conduct some market research on your idea. So is there a desire for your product or service? Is there demand for what you are offering to either make, or if you're offering a service, are there people that need or want that service? You want to look at the market size. How many people are going to be, interested in what you are offering in your business? You want to look at economic indicators. What's the income range and employment rate? Location. If you are planning to open a brick and mortar business, you want to look at the location where you live, make sure that there are customers that are going to want or need your business or your service or your product. You want to look at markets saturation, basically the competition. How many other people are out there doing something similar to what you want to do? And then finally, pricing. What do potential customers pay for these alternatives? So you want to look at your competition. How much are they charging? What might you have to charge in order to make the business viable?
Yeah.
So how do you conduct this market research? So there are different kinds of research, what we call either direct or primary research, and then secondary research. So direct research consists of things like surveys and questionnaires that you might send out to a group of people. You might put together a focus group to do, just kind of brainstorming about various ideas, or you might want to conduct, some in-depth interviews with either potential customers or competition or partners, et cetera. And then secondary research are, sort of the statistics that you need to gather. So you can get things like this from, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the US Census Bureau, the Small Business Administration or SBA. They have their wealth of information. And then things like IBIS World, which is industry market research that you can tap into to really get some granular information about your specific business.
Nice. I really like this idea of, doing this research and kind of finding out what people are wanting or needing. I know for me, I would really, where do you start with this? Like, where can I find people to do a direct research initiative with?
Yeah, so I mean, the most obvious example is just start with friends and family. And I can give you an example. When we were putting together our wine company, we were trying to come up with a name for our company, and we basically just had a big, focus group or party. We invited a whole bunch of people over to the house. We sat around and brainstormed different ideas, just to find out how some of the names would, hold up in the marketplace, what connotations the names had. So, that's an obvious place to start. Or if you work in a particular industry that you want to, open a business in, reach out to colleagues who work in the business, get their ideas about, how this would work. And, what kinds of things you need to think about in getting a business started. But again, colleagues, friends, family, those are the obvious, groups that you want to tap into.
Yes, I like focus group / party. You're speaking my language.
Yes.
But
make it fun. You don't want to make it work.
Yes, and then
you want people to be invested and have a good time, and so it worked great.
Yes, I really like that, and getting those different perspectives. Maybe other folks hear or see things that you don't, especially when you're throwing out names. Tara has a really good question here. If there are resources to ask the right questions, or how do I know what to collect, basically?
Yeah, so we're going to go through, when we go through talking about how to put together a business plan, we're going to talk about some of the specific things that you'll want to ask. So maybe I'll push that question off just a little bit until we go through that part of the business plan, because that will answer that question then.
Awesome. All right, Tara, we will be right back. Okay.
So speaking of the business plan, this is the sort of the next step that you want to take, is to write a business plan. Now, a lot of people will say, well, do I really need a business plan? That seems like a lot of work. If I'm not necessarily applying for a loan, who is going to need to see the business plan? Well, the answer to that is A business plan can serve as a lot of different things. It can be something that you would need if you were applying for financing or a loan or looking for investors. They're absolutely going to want to see a business plan. But a business plan will also just serve as a roadmap for your first years in business. So you want to be, really sort of lay out the steps of what you're going to do with your plan. And it will really, help you to, take those steps that you need to succeed. And it shouldn't be something that you write and stick in a drawer. It should be something that you are updating. Obviously things change, you have something in mind when you think of your business, but things inevitably will change. So you should always be updating your business plan. So again, it can serve as a living, breathing document and help you, reach those business milestones that you set up.
Like that a lot. I it kind of reminds me of your resume, how everyone says you should consistently do that so you can highlight like the highs and whatnot. So I love that, just like mindfulness of coming back to it.
Yes. So what should you include in a business plan? So the first thing is an executive summary. This is basically your 2-minute elevator pitch. So if you meet somebody in an elevator and they say, well, what's your business? You want to be able to, let them know in 2-3 minutes what your business is and what you're trying to do. Now, this isn't necessarily the first thing that you're going to write. In fact, it's probably the last thing you're going to write. You're going to write the rest of your business plan and then distill everything, summarize everything into the executive summary. But it's very, very important. And there are some people, when I was in business school and we would write a case or a paper, we always had an executive summary. And oftentimes, busy people, if they're looking at your business plan, sometimes they won't look at anything but the executive summary. Or if they read the executive summary and their attention isn't immediately captured, they won't bother to read the rest of it. So it really needs to be punchy and grab their attention. So again, you want to write it last, but it's probably the most important thing. In terms of other components, you want to have obviously a description of your business and how it's set up, an explanation of why you're in business and what you're selling. This is, very straightforward. And again, this forces you to be able to explain clearly to someone what you're doing and what you're trying to sell. Now, here is where we get into some of the secondary research that you're going to conduct. So you're going to do some research on the market of your business. You're going to do some analysis. You want to look at sales forecasts, deadlines, milestones, advertising, public relations, how you stack up against your competition. And if we can go to the next slide. Next, you're going to talk about management and personnel. And if you're a sole proprietor, then this is you. This is where you really sort of tout your expertise. If you have a partner or if you already have some employees lined up, you're going to want to really explain why you are qualified to run this business. What is your background? What have your past jobs been? What is your education? Everything that you need to let people know, that you are qualified to run this business. The next thing is financial documents. These should be, conservative projections of profit and loss statements. You should include a balance sheet. Cash flow. Cash flow is super important. You want to see how, cash in, cash out. And I always recommend, if you think that you're going to need, $1,000 to start your business or to have on hand, double that or triple that, because you always will need more cash than you think. And I can speak from experience with both of my business. So we ended up needing, about twice as much cash. You've got bills to pay, things come up that you don't know, you don't expect. You always have to be ready with enough cash to keep the business going. So, and one thing to note is that these are forward-looking projections, not your current accounting output. So if you're already started your business, you want to show what's going to happen, in the years to come.
Got it. Okay. Oh, before I move on to the next section, I just wanted to say, like, thank you so much for sharing all of these pieces that go into a business plan. And if you're, someone like me, and you're looking at this and you're like, this is a lot, I just wanted to give a shameless plug for our coaching services. So I mentioned earlier that Beth Ann is one of our coaches. We have a whole coaching hub, and it is full of wonderful, experienced coaches that can help you when you're going on this journey. If you already have a business plan, they can help you kind of look at that and make sure it's working for you, or help you kind of get that started. So I'm going to drop a link into our chat, and that link is for you to go and check out the coaching hub, and you can even sign up for a free session. So just wanted to mention that before we move on.
Yeah, and I would just echo what Brittany said. We are here, if you need help, if you've already started to do a business plan, you need somebody to look at what you've done, or if you're starting from zero, we have some special software that can help you put together your business plan. So that's what we're here for as business coaches. All right, so next, moving on, step 4, you want to make your business official. And there are a couple things that you need to do to make this happen. So if you are, even if you're a sole proprietor, you want to register your business with your city and possibly your state, depending on what kind of legal structure. And we'll talk about those in a minute. So this gives you, legal grounds to move forward using your brand's name. So if you're setting up as a sole proprietor, you can just register with your city or town, and you register for a DBA. This is a doing business as. It's usually a free, step that you can take to just give your business some legitimacy. The next thing you want to do is get a tax ID number, or an EIN, an employer identification number. You'll need this to pay any federal taxes, to hire employees, to open a business bank account, and apply for any business licenses or permits that you might need. And if you are setting up as a sole proprietor, you can use your social security number to operate the business, but I strongly, strongly, strongly urge you not to do this. You want to keep things as separate as you can. So always, open a separate business bank account, keep your, business finances separate from your personal, and get that ID number. It's super easy. You just go to the IRS website, and it's easy as 1, 2, 3. Next, what you want to do, depending on what kind of business you're planning to operate, you may need different kinds of licenses and permits. So especially if you're operating a food business, something I can speak to specifically is every town has different kinds of health permits that you need, to make sure that you're operating your business, in the most healthy and clean way. There are other businesses where you might not need any licenses and permits, but you always want to do your research on this and make sure that you have any license or permits that you might need. The next thing you want to do is decide a legal structure. And we're going to go through now a few of the different types of structures that you can choose for your business.
Beth Ann, I had a quick question on this slide. So I'm seeing in the chat that some folks are starting a business, and some people are thinking about going into nonprofit as well, kind of trying to make that decision. Are these steps for making your business official the same if you're having a nonprofit arm, or is there a difference between that?
So there are some differences. Setting up a nonprofit can be a little bit tricky. And if anybody is interested in finding out more about this, I encourage them to set up a coaching session with me. I'm not a nonprofit expert, but I can certainly steer you in the right direction in terms of what you will need to do, because it is a bit different than setting up a for-profit business. Yeah.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So before you decide what kind of legal structure that you want to set up for your business, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself. So first is, obviously, what type of business are you going to start? How small or large will it be? How many owners? Will you have partners? Will you have multiple partners, multiple owners? Who's going to make decisions for the business? This next one is probably the most important one. What are the liability risks of the business? So if you're getting into a business that has inherent risk, like a food business, for example, this is a really important question to ask. And then, do you have any personal assets that you need to protect? So if you have, not even if you have, you don't have to be super wealthy, but if you have a house or you have, different property that you want to protect, this is a question that needs to be asked before you decide on your legal structure.
And there's another question at the bottom that might be cut off. So sorry. It says, will you need to seek financing from a bank or an investor?
Yeah, I don't know what's up with my computer screen today. Thank
Right.
you for, there we go. All right, so let's go through the different options of legal structures. So I've mentioned sole proprietorship a couple times. And this is basically where you are the business, just you're basically one person and you are it. So pros of this type of legal structure is that it's super easy to form and gives you complete control of your business. The only thing that you should do to set this up is, as I mentioned before, file a DBA in the city or town where you live. You don't even have to do that, but again, it's strongly encouraged to do it. And then setting up a separate bank account. So this is a good choice for very low risk businesses, owners who want to kind of test their business out. So if you're thinking, well, I just want to test this out, I don't want to get into any complicated legal structure, let me just set up as a sole proprietorship to start off. So some of the cons, your business assets and liabilities are not separate from your personal assets and liabilities. So in other words, to put it in very simple terms, if someone decides to sue your business for something that you might have done, you are personally liable and they can come after your personal assets. They can come after, any debts and obligations of the business. So this is where you really want to think about, am I doing something that has an inherent risk to it? And if it does, then you really need to think about doing something a little bit more robust. But if you're setting up, let's say, an online retail shop or an online consulting business or something along those lines, chances are having a sole proprietorship is perfectly fine starting out. So the next is a partnership. So this is a very simple structure if you have two or more people that are going to go into business together. Again, a good choice for businesses with multiple owners, professional groups. So for example, if you're an attorney, and again, people who want to kind of test their business idea before forming a more formal business, similar to the sole proprietorship. Now, again, the cons have to do with protection against personal, assets, and anybody who, is going to go after payments from the business. Again, they can come after your personal assets. It's not great for, high risk professions like law or healthcare, general contractors. You may need more protection in this case. Go to the next one. The next one is a limited liability company or an LLC. So this is the most common choice for people who are, going to have a business that's going to have a little bit more risk involved. And because an LLC will protect you from personal liability in most instances, and protect you against anyone coming after your personal assets. Basically, in terms of taxation, the profits and losses can get passed through to your personal income without facing any corporate taxes, which is important. And one thing I'd like to just go back to that I didn't mention with a sole proprietorship is that the taxation, basically what you do is you file your personal taxes, and then you file an addendum to your personal taxes to show your business taxes. So, and this is called a Schedule C. So just something that I wanted to point out. So with an LLC, the taxes get passed through, but you're not liable for any corporate taxes. So again, this is a good choice for sort of medium or slightly higher risk businesses, or if you are someone who has, either a home or other types of personal assets that you want to protect, and also that you want to pay, a lower tax rate than you would with a corporation. So for example, both companies that I have set up, we set up as LLCs because we wanted, the protection against anyone coming after our personal assets. It was a relatively easy thing to set up, and we didn't want to have to pay, corporate taxes. Now, the cons are members of an LLC are considered self-employed, and you have to pay self-employment tax contributions towards Medicare and Social Security. And you will need, it does take a little bit of time to set up. Normally you file through the Secretary of State in your respective state. Normally they will ask for you to prepare an operating agreement, which isn't too onerous, and there is usually a fee. So for example, in Massachusetts, where I live, the fee for setting up an LLC was a $500 fee, and then you have to file reports every year. So there is a little bit of organization and a little bit of of an application process to get this done. But again, it's not hard, and it's totally worth it if you want to protect yourself against people coming after your personal assets.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention that the fees do vary very widely from state to state. I'm in Illinois, and mine was, I think, less than $200. So be really mindful if you're, doing that you look at your Secretary of State website. They'll give you all the details.
Very good point. Every state is different on this. So, okay. So the next thing is different kinds of corporations. So a C Corp is the first type. This is a legal entity that's completely separate from its owners. This is a good choice for, again, the sort of medium to higher risk businesses that need to raise money or that plan to go public or eventually might be sold, because you can raise funds through the sale of stock. The cons are, it costs, the cost may be higher than other structures than, say, an LLC. It requires more sort of extensive record keeping and reporting. So that's something to think about. The next is an S Corp. This is a special type of corporation that's designed to avoid double taxation. And it allows profits and some losses to be passed through directly to the owner's personal income without ever being suggested to corporate tax rates. And again, it's getting cut off at the bottom. Brittany, what can you tell me what the con?
It says some special limits are imposed. You should check with the IRS.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Awesome.
Yeah, so corporations, again, just sort of in a nutshell, if you want to try to raise money as an investor, or you think you might go public, then these are the types of structures that you would want to go for. All right.
Okay. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Before we move on to that next section, I was just thinking, like, you might start a business at one point, and then as you grow or change or learn more, you might think back that you should change the structure, or go from a DBA to an LLC, if I'm remembering the terms correctly. So if you're doing that, can you do that? First of all, can you do that for a business? And then where should you start that process?
Yeah, so a lot of people will change their legal structure as they grow. So for example, a lot of people will, start out as a sole proprietorship because it's very easy to set up. And then as they grow, or they maybe have more liability risk, then they would, maybe graduate to an LLC, et cetera. So again, you want to check with, if you do want to do an LLC or a C Corp, definitely check with your Secretary of State in your respective state to find out what you would need to do. And the times that you would think about changing your legal structure or making it a little bit more robust is when you maybe are adding employees. So for example, you might start out as a sole proprietorship, and then you decide to add partners or employees. Then you would want to, formalize your legal structure. Again, the liability and the risk is always a huge a factor. As I mentioned before, if you need outside investment or you need a bank loan, then that's another time that you might want to think about changing your legal structure.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Beth Ann. And there's also a really great article that we have on how you can change your structure that I'm dropping in the chat. Okay.
All right. So the next thing you want to do is figure out your financing. So when you start a business, oftentimes you need money to get started. And this can be, a tricky business when you're first starting out. But there are some ways to do it with without having to apply for a loan. The first one is obvious, just what we call bootstrapping. And this is basically just using your personal savings or your personal resources. You may have, been planning to start a business for a long time. So maybe you've been putting aside money to help you do that. The next is debt financing from a microcredit lender or a CDFI. So a CDFI is a community development finance institution. And these are lenders that are more open to lending to startup businesses because a lot of traditional banks are not willing to lend money to startups. So it can be tricky. But a microcredit lender or CDFI will be more open to that. They're more, open to taking on a little bit more risk. It usually, these loans will be quite small, but they might be enough, to just kind of get you started. So those are, some options. The next option is something called crowdfunding. And crowdfunding basically means raising a lot of small contributions from many different people on the internet. And an example of a crowdfunding site is Kiva. And maybe Brittany, if you can pull up and drop that in the chat, because that's something I direct a lot of my customers to, or my clients to, because it's a great way to sort of raise. Again, you're not going to raise millions of dollars, but it can be enough to get you started. And I'm sure people on the webinar have seen things like GoFundMe. Sometimes people will set up GoFundMe pages for either to start a business, or if a family sort of needs some help to get them through a difficult time. That's all an example of crowdfunding as well. So you sometimes see it on Facebook or other social media sites, but Kiva is definitely a great one to check out. The other thing you can do is borrow money from friends and family if you're lucky enough to have, friends and family that can help you, and they're the first people that will be willing to take a risk on you. So definitely worth asking. And then you obviously have angel investors and venture capitalists. These are funding options that are usually a little bit more sophisticated. They're going to definitely be looking for a very, very solid business plan with really robust financial statements, et cetera. They're usually interested in certain types of businesses too. So, if you're just going to open sort of a mom and pop restaurant, or say a beauty salon or something like that, that's usually not something that an angel investor is going to be interested in. They're going to be more interested in high tech kind of businesses, things that have the potential to really sort of blow up and make a lot of money because they're in it to make money. And then finally, you have grants. I always have people asking me about grants. Everyone wants a grant. It's basically free money. And there are grants out there. You know, I'm not trying to dissuade you from applying for grants, but they're obviously very competitive. But there are grant programs out there for women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, and then AOF partners with a lot of organizations to provide grants to businesses too. So, and maybe that's something that Brittany can elaborate on, but we've got lots of different programs that happen several times a year for different kinds of grant programs.
Yes, so I agree. I think grants are obviously, I mean, I would want to know, like, where's the free money at? That for sure. So I completely get it. If you are in this webinar, you are in our AOF ecosystem. And so when a grant opportunity comes up that, you know, you might be eligible for or a good fit for, we will obviously communicate with you through email. You can always, you know, stay tuned on our website and our resources there. But I did want to, you know, just kind of mention something, Beth Ann, because a lot of times, you know, grants, there is some prep that you have to do for grant or loan funding. So how can a business like prep or be prepared to apply for a grant or loan?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And you definitely want to be prepared. So a couple different things that I always tell businesses, if you are planning to apply for a loan or apply for a grant, there are a couple different things that you want to make sure that you have sort of ready to go. The first thing I always suggest is to build and maintain a good credit score. Now, this is sometimes hard when you're a brand new business. You're like, well, I'm brand new. I haven't, you know, how can I build my business credit? Well, there are ways to do that. What a simple thing is just to apply for a business credit card and start using it, start building up your credit that way. If you know, they might also look at your personal credit score too. So, you know, try to make sure that your, you know, personal credit is as solid as it can be. So that's step one. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you have, you know, your financial statements. So I talked about a cash flow statement. I talked about an income statement, profit and loss, a balance sheet. And you might need to get, you know, someone to help you prepare those because not everyone is a financial expert. So, you know, engage a bookkeeper or an accountant if you can to get those those financial statements in order. And then, you know, just kind of know your finances, get your financial finances in order. How much can you afford? If you're applying for a loan, how much can you actually afford to pay back? So you want to be really, you know, sure about what kind of payments that you can afford on a monthly basis. And then in terms of documents, you want to make sure that you have any tax returns, you know, ready to go. If you're already in business, tax returns are super important. Bank statements are another document that they often ask for. Again, the business plan, those financial statements in your business plan, and then the business plan itself. Again, a bank or an investor is going to want to see a business plan to make sure that you know, sort of where you're going with the business. So those are few things that you should make sure that you have ready to go.
That's awesome. And I think definitely, you know, looking at it from that loan funding perspective, you're going to be really prepared then when you go for a grant because it's different kinds of questions, a lot what I think can be vary by the grant. It depends. But in terms of the finances, I really wanted to plug the next webinar that we're going to have in January. It is all about getting your business finances in order. So I'm dropping the link below. You can register now. It's after, you know, the holidays. So I know it seems like a long time between now and then, but if that is something that you're wanting to just get a little more guidance on and how you can get started with that, go ahead and register for this upcoming webinar and let us kind of help you with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be doing that with some people from Global Atlantic who were the sponsors of this webinar as well. So we'll have some really great advice to give out then. All right, so moving on to step 6, you want to protect your business. So, you are starting, this is your passion project, this is your baby. You want to make sure that it is protected. And this, again, depends a lot on the type of business that you are starting. Some businesses aren't going to need too much insurance, but other businesses, so for, again, getting back to my background, which is in the food business, you want to absolutely protect yourself. If someone eats a bad sandwich and comes back and sues you for that, you want to make sure that you're protected from that. So some different kinds of insurance that you might want to think about are general liability insurance. This is going to help protect your company from liability claims alleging bodily injury, property damage, libel, or slander. So again, somebody eats something bad in your restaurant, you want to make sure that you're protected from any legal claims that they might have. Business income insurance. This is something that will help you to replace any lost income if you have a temporary closure, or if you have a fire or theft or wind damage, for example, or different kinds of weather damage, and you have to close down. This can help you to recoup some of that lost income. Professional liability coverage. This is something to have if you might be sued for negligence or errors in the services you provide. So for example, if you're a lawyer or in the healthcare industry and you are sued for being negligent, you want to make sure you have the proper coverage. And then commercial property insurance. Again, if you do have a brick and mortar business, or a location, a retail store or a restaurant, you need to have property insurance. So if you have any damage to the building or your equipment or your inventory, furniture, fixtures, all of this is going to be covered by a good property insurance policy. All right, so got this great idea, you've got all the right structure in place. Now you have to get out there and sell your product or service. And this is one of the most important things that you need to do. So there are lots of things you can do. Especially in this day and age, there's lots of digital opportunities to get your business out there. So I'm going to just go through a couple of things that you might want to think about. So first thing is to take advantage of local listings, especially if you are offering a product or service that is very locally focused. You want to register your business with Google. Google is basically the new Yellow Pages. I mean, if you're as old as I am, we used to get these giant Yellow Pages books that you would look through to find a business. Maybe they're still making those, I don't know, but I think the last couple of Yellow Pages I've gotten have gone directly into the circular file, meaning the garbage or the recycling bin. So it's just not where people go, but Google is. First thing people do is go on Google, what's the best pizza in town? So it's going to allow, if you Google something, you'll see it always has the location. It will include the hours of your business and any pertinent information. So you want to make sure you get your business registered on Google. Customers can also post reviews of your businesses. And, this is obviously good, especially if you're getting lots of good reviews. You want people like to see what other people have to say about your business. The next thing you want to do, in addition, first, you want to set up a website. That's super important. I sort of skipped that step, just assuming that, any business is going to have a website. It's just in this day and age, you absolutely have to have a website. So once you have the website, you want to make sure people can find your website. You want to come up in those Google searches. So what you want to do is optimize your website's SEO. So SEO is search engine optimization. And basically what this does is help your business show up first in those Google searches, or at least very highly. So, when you search for something on Google, something always comes up first. You want your business to be that when someone searches for, best, haircut in town, you want to show up first on that list. And this is done using relevant keywords throughout your business's webpage. This is something you can do yourself, but it's also something that, sometimes it's worth getting some help with this to make sure that you really, optimize this part of your website. All right, so the next one, use social media. Now, I know a lot of people have sort of a love-hate relationship with social media. A lot of people ask me, do I have to have social media for my business? The answer is unfortunately yes. You have to have some kind of social media presence. Now, you don't have to be on every single platform. I've got the icons of all the different platforms. You don't have to be on TikTok and, every different platform, but you need to find the platform that is going to best, help you find your target market and the demographics. So this is going to allow you to inform your customers, to attract new customers, and engage with your customers. Most social media platforms, if not all, are completely free to set up as a business account. So it's a very affordable way to advertise your business. Now you can get into, Facebook advertising and different kinds of advertising on the different sites, and those are paid services, oftentimes a very affordable way to pay for advertising. But find the platform that is going to most closely match the demographic of your business. So for example, if your business customer, your target customer skews slightly older, you might want to think about Facebook and possibly Instagram. If your target demographic is, high school students or college students, then, you might want to get into the TikTok craze. It's just a fact of life. This is where people, get their information. So you have to do it. But again, don't feel overwhelmed. Don't feel like you have to be on every single platform, but definitely do the research, figure out which platform is the best for your business. If you're looking for business to business connections, you might want to look at LinkedIn or something like that. So lots of different options here. And I think, Brittany, you were going to say something about a previous webinar that we did.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're hearing all this and you're seeing all these icons and you're like, where do I start the research? Beth Ann and Global Atlantic, who's sponsoring today's webinar, also championed another webinar called Social Media 101, Find Your People. And it digs into more of the specifics of what platform should you maybe prioritize based on your business. And then there's some amazing real life examples of what looks good, why it looks good, and how you can use it. So I really recommend that. There is an article and a recording of the webinar there. So just wanted to mention that and drop that in the chat for everyone.
Great. Thank you for that, Brittany. Wait, if you just go back up.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. So just along with this whole idea of using social media, you want to make sure that you create engaging content for your social media postings. So you want to make sure you have good photos, engaging maybe blog posts, videos are really big too. And you want to make it as enticing as possible. You want to make it look professional, and you can do amazing things just with an iPhone. So it's not like you have to go out and buy fancy equipment. You can do just about everything with a phone. All right.
Love that.
Now, another thing that people might not necessarily think about, and you might think this sounds slightly old-fashioned, but creating a press release is actually something that, it's not just something that would, necessarily go into a print newspaper, for example, but many cities and towns have local digital sort of postings. I get, an email almost every day from the town where I live that talks about different things that are happening in the town. And so these publications are always looking for interesting things that are happening in their town. So create a press release, send it off to them. They may use it, they may not, but again, it's totally free. And it's a way to really engage the local audience. So again, it depends on what kind of business you're operating. If your business is more locally focused, then this is absolutely something that you want to consider doing. And then using paid advertising, I mentioned this before, that you can do promoted social media posts, Facebook, Instagram. There are different kinds of ads that you can do, and some of them can be very, very cost effective, and you can decide how much you want to spend. You can say, okay, I only want to spend sort of $30, and you can set it up so that it only goes to the max amount that you want to spend, and they can be very, very effective. You also have what we call pay-per-click ads. Search engines like Google offer this service, and again, when you do a Google search, you'll often see the first couple things that show up in your search. It will say ad or sponsored, and that means that someone has paid for that ad to show up at the top of a Google search. And then you only pay if people are clicking on your ad. So again, you can set limits on how much you want to spend on that. But these can be really effective ways of getting some paid advertising for your business. Participate in local and community events. If you are operating a local events, attend events, meet different business owners and prospective customers, set up at trade shows or farmers markets are great ways to attract customers. You can collect information, you can see what the competition is doing, and you can do some amazing networking and getting the word out about your business. So a few more tips. So we've gone through the 7 steps. I just wanted to add just a couple more tips. Obviously, avail yourself of any free technical assistance through AOF. We do business coaching. I'm a coach with AOF. We have webinars. We have an amazing digital resource library. AOF also offers loans once you've been in business for at least a year. This is something that you can explore, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about our loan program. The next thing I want to say is, establish what what I like to call a bail team. You should have a banker, establish a relationship with your banker, have an accountant or a bookkeeper, an insurance broker, if that's something that you need for the type of business you have, and make sure you have a lawyer or legal advice that you can turn to. And there are lots of free and low-cost legal options, depending on what city you're in, where they'll offer very low cost or free legal assistance for people starting up their business. And then finally, make sure you automate your systems. Use accounting software like QuickBooks or Wave, or there are free and paid accounting softwares. If you are going to have employees, engage a payroll service. I can't stress this enough. When I first opened my first business, we thought, oh, we'll be able to do that ourselves. Well, the best money I've ever spent was engaging a payroll service. If you have inventory, use inventory control software. And then with social media, again, we did the whole webinar, but schedule your social media posts so it doesn't become overwhelming. And then finally, just I wanted to end with a quote that by Albert Schweitzer, and it's, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. And this goes back to, one of the first slides that we had, is that, choose a business in something that you love or something that's your passion. And it will be so much easier to achieve success if you're doing what you love. So I know we're right up against time. I Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it over to Brittany just to go over our resources. But I would encourage anybody, if you, want to set up a coaching session either with me or with one of our other fantastic coaches, please do that.
Just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to our partner, Global Atlantic. Thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you in the new year.